The only way that you make money as an associate is by producing dentistry. There's no way to go get the endorsement deal as an associate. So the name of the game is how much dentistry can I do at the highest dollar value that I can do. You do have to know, like, am I going to do a bunch of crowns for $50? That's not the job to take.
All right, we are back for another episode. My name is Gary. I am the co-host of My Dental Playbook, along with my friend Dr. Blake Hamblin. We're diving deep into his office to take over the world, to build a $10 million GP practice, fee for service in a competitive market. And he's well on his way. And we just actually recorded, Dr. Blake, I didn't even tell you, we recorded our 1 year anniversary episode. We just took all your best takes from the first year and just rolled it up into one great podcast. So once you're watching this, we're a little bit 1 year removed. And today we're going to be talking about associates again. If you haven't watched the last episode, go check that out. But today we're going to be jumping into comp, percentages, in-network versus out-of-network, frequency of getting paid or when you're paying, adjusted production versus collection, all the hot stuff that you see online and people fighting over, and especially dentists, because it's all math driven, but there's a lot of missing context there. And before we jump into this, I want to tell you, make sure you check out our sponsor, Cherry. They're amazing. They allow us to make this content. And if you're not using them, you're missing out. Dr. Blake literally uses Cherry with every single patient. He presents it. He did almost $100,000 just with Cherry last month. #1 office in Houston. So go check that out. We have special pricing and training around that. And this episode, one thing I want you to keep in mind as we go through this is that there is no perfect answer to any of this. A lot of this is philosophy driven. If you just go purely math, then you're going to create this mathematical formula that works for you, but not the other side. So if you're an owner doctor trying to hire an associate, you can create a mathematical formula to make you the winner and them the loser, but then they'll leave. And then you'll go through 4 or 5 associates, and that won't be fun. You'll waste a lot of time and energy. On the flip side, if you're an associate, you can also create a mathematical formula that you always win, but then the owner doctor's no one's going to want to work with you. So you have to enter into this with a philosophy of how do we meet in the middle to create a win-win for the owner and the associate and the office and the patients. If you do that, everybody eats, everybody's happy. So Dr. Blake, you pieced this together for me, and it helped me as you started to put it together to create a clear picture. And the first thing on our list is compensation. How should both sides be thinking through the compensation? Hey, there's only one reason that you're watching this podcast, and it's because you want to grow. We love My Dental Playbook listeners so much that we have a special gift for you. We have an AI overview that we do a deep dive into your market and tell you exactly what your competition is doing and how much it would cost for you to generate new patients through online marketing. If you're looking to grow, this is for you. There's a link down below. It takes about 15 minutes that we have to dive through that, and it's completely free. Check it out and continue to grow. Thanks so much for being a loyal listener. Back to the show. How should both sides be thinking through the compensation?
Well, I think a lot of this comes from the associate side, where they're really digesting and trying to figure out the difference between 30 and 32% or 28. And so, like, those percentages matter. But at the same time, I think as you approach what position you're walking into, there's so much more that really matters. There's culture, there's mentorship, there's do I just like the building that I'm walking into every day? Do I feel good about what I'm doing? Do the people that I'm going to work with, are they filled with integrity? So there's other things that go into compensation outside of just how much money am I going to get paid for the service that I provide. But that being said, I think the biggest thing that new grads specifically get caught up in, because I get a lot of people that want me to help look at contracts that maybe they're walking through, and I'm happy to do that. But a lot of times they get caught up in, well, this office offered me 28%, and this office offered me, 32%, and this one's on collections, this one's on product. And I think more than anything, your job as the new grad or walking into the new office, just figuring out how much need is there? Like what void am I going to fill that adds value to the practice, that will allow the practice to compensate me. Because as you said, there's a lot of really bad deals made where there's practices that don't need associates or associates that don't need the practice, and vice versa. And I think finding out, like, have you married the right person
Yeah.
is the most important thing, more than what percentage am I being paid.
Yeah, the percentage doesn't mean anything if you don't have any patients to see, right? And so
That's right.
I think about it from like the NBA basketball. I watch a lot of basketball, and I think about these superstars that take pay cuts so they can build a better team. And it's like, well, why are they doing that? They do that to win, but you're going to miss out on so much money. No, no, no. If they win a championship or they're really good, they're going to make all that back plus some on endorsements. So yeah, they took a little bit less so they can bring in 2 or 3 other people, and it all equals more money at the end for them. But if you're just looking at the contract up front, that you don't understand that. So if I would rather work with a Dr. Blake type office, because you have 200 new patients, plus you're trying to actively move treatment off of your books onto somebody else's books. And so that's a lot of opportunity versus a doctor maybe who's never hired an associate before. There's 10 new patients a month. That's going to be painful for him to move some of those patients over to me, and I'm going to be fighting the owner for treatment. Like, I would rather take 25% with you than 30% with them.
Right. And what a lot of people don't think about is the relationship that you have to have inside the quarterback room, right? And so you've got to sit with this person, likely, unless they've created separate offices. But in our office, we have a doctor's alcove, so we all sit in the same area. So if it was awkward in the fact that, man, I don't trust that this guy really needs me or he's going to help me grow and develop, like, you're sitting next to this guy or girl every day that you're like, I don't know if they're the person, you know, and it goes both ways, from to an associate or to an owner. And I think really leaning into that and knowing that there's going to be a totally different dynamic, not that I'm special, but for someone that would come into me knowing I'm actively trying to shed treatment to my associates so that they can do more of the clinical aspect, versus a single doc practice who maybe thinks they need an associate because they're a little bit tired of doing dentistry, but they still don't want to leave the income that they've been used to and accustomed to making. That's going to be a different dynamic. And I think you got to take that into account.
Yeah, 100%. Do you have an agreement that you use with the associates that you bring on?
Oh, most definitely. Yeah. Like a contract?
Do you think we could share that? And I know there's some stuff we might have to remove. Yeah. Okay. So we'll share that down below for you guys if you want to kind of see how Dr. Blake sets it up. But again, got to be careful who you work with. And no matter whatever side you're on, you're going to spend a year figuring it out. Like, if you're the owner doctor, you're going to spend a year with that associate thinking, okay, I'm going to help them. And the whole time they're not motivated because you didn't set up the agreement properly. And then on the flip side, if you're an associate working for the owner doctor, like, you're going to be there for some time, even if everything's a poop storm, you're stuck there. So you got to really make the right decision there. And that shouldn't be off of 1 or 2 points on an agreement. It should be on the opportunity upside of that practice. And you can tell pretty quickly, you know, hey, how many new patients are you getting? What's your collections? Well, those things are very, very telling. Now, in that same vein, a lot of times people talk about like adjusted production versus collections. How are you thinking through that?
Well, I think that there's so many different ways you can approach this conversation. And I think that nobody's necessarily wrong, but I think the perspective that you approach it from matters. And so what I would say is that 95% of owner docs would say that everybody should be paid on collections because that's the money that is actually real. That's the money that actually the business can operate out of. And that's how it should be done. And then there's the 5% that still think that collections, what I would say is there's another group within that same subgroup that would say, I believe that, but I'm still going to pay people on adjusted production because that's the norm. And I'd rather get the best talent than fight over adjusted productions and collections. And then there's a group who just believes that adjusted production is the way to go and it's the most fair. And I think a lot of times in an in-network situation, that can be a real truth. I think that some things that I've learned as an out-of-network provider is adjusted production can get a little bit messy because of when adjustments can occur. And so we've had to create some clarity around what that looks like for someone that might be on adjusted production. Ultimately, I think that as the owner, you can make both work if you run a good business. Our collections rate is 100% every single year. Sometimes it's greater than 100% because of how we collect. And that's ultimately my job. And if we talk to associates and whether they're on adjusted production or collections, they can count on the fact that they're going to get paid fairly. And it really shouldn't change how they're paid. It might just change when that gets paid at the very beginning. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, the number doesn't change. If they're 30% and adjusted production and collections are theoretically should be the same number, then it's just a matter of when that number comes in.
Yeah, when that number comes in. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. And so again, just going back to the philosophy side of it, like if I was an owner doctor or I was a grad, what I'm trying to find is an agreement that is a three-way win, right? Owner, associate, as well as the patients in the office. And so if you have an agreement that isn't a three-way win, then it's not a good agreement. And I think sometimes we lack empathy, right? Where it's just like we lack the ability to think from the other person's shoes. And you can create something that isn't going to work for everybody. And that's not good.
Some things that I would encourage associates to consider is to avoid the statement that collections is not your responsibility. It is not your job to collect the money, but it is partially your responsibility. If you continue to do dentistry on people and the office does not get paid on that dentistry, then at some point you don't have a job anymore. Right. And so I do think that there is some responsibility from the associate perspective to ensure that the things being done to be able to collect that money is taken care of.
Like what? So like what?
Yeah. So, I mean, most insurances require a PA with any crown that you submit. So as the provider, are you ensuring that your assistant that you trust and you love, are they actually taking the x-ray? Do you have consents? Do you have prepayments? Do you have
following the process that you need to do to make sure that you're going to get paid on that stuff?
Has the patient paid their portion?
Yeah.
Because we all know chasing them down afterwards is going to be a nightmare. And that, not that it's your job, but it is also something that it would be like if the running back for the Patriots said, it's not really my job to block. Well, it's not on a lot of the plays, but on the pass plays, we need you to block. You know what I mean?
Or if it's like the coach says, oh, we keep losing because we're not scoring enough points and it's not my job to score points. So it's like, well, exactly. You're the coach though. So you get some say in it, right? Like, and that's the wrong. It's not that technically you're right. You're not scoring, but you're part of the process to help score. So you probably shouldn't say things like that. That's the bottom line. So the
biggest thing is just the culture. Like you want the culture to be that we're all rowing the boat the same direction. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I understand where the statement comes from, but I also think that it's a little bit reckless.
It is reckless. Yeah. Is it kind of like I've taught young people because they'll come to me and they'll be like, I need a raise. My rent just went up. And I'm like, that's the wrong way to ask for a raise. Well, what do you mean? I need more money. And it's because of my rent. And I go, I get that. But no business owner will ever just give you more money because your rent went up. The correct way is to say, hey, you know what? I would like to provide more value to the company. Is there things or skills or jobs that I could do that would be more valuable? And that's the correct way to approach it. You're saying the same thing, but you're just saying it in a different way. So the correct way would be like, how can I help boost collections? I realize that I'm not the sole contributor to collections, but I want to make sure that I'm following the process to make us all successful. And business owners love hearing that kind of conversation. So if you're a business owner, you can send this to your associate or potential associate and say, hey, listen to this. This will help them. So, okay. So we talked about comp percentages. What are adjusted production versus collections? Again, it's a more philosophy than it is an exact number that you're going to get to. What about frequency of getting paid?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of different ways you can do it. I know some people that pay every 2 weeks, and those adjustments just happen as time goes. And then I know people that want to see those adjustments happen and give enough time to allow the adjustments happen before they pay. Some of the concerns I have with some of that is some people are responsible enough to budget and some people are not. And so if you go the route of waiting to pay, then you usually have to pay a minimum or trust that provider can know how to manage their money until the next amount of their next paycheck comes along. Whereas if you do it every 2 weeks, they can be assured that money is coming every 2 weeks and they can live life like a more normal person, I guess. And so there's not a right way, there's not a wrong way. Eventually it all equals the same amount. But it matters when that timing occurs.
Yeah.
And
Which one's
some
less?
Of it gives.
Is the 2 weeks less work, or is it more reconciling?
No, the 2 weeks is probably more work. It's probably more work because every 2 weeks you're having to run that.
You have to reconcile it, right? Yeah,
that's right. But I think that option puts a little more risk on the practice, because if the provider ups and leaves without notice, then there's no time to make the adjustments, and so it all becomes an adjustment against the practice versus an adjustment to the provider's report.
Got it. Okay. So I don't think I have any questions on that one. That one is just you're going to have to work it out. What would you want if you were an associate? How would you want it?
I wouldn't really care because I feel like I know how to budget and manage. I feel like there's more security in the every 2 weeks because you never know when the AC is going to go out, or you know what I mean. And so if you're if you don't have a savings and you're counting on,
so it really boils down to the person's budgeting ability. Yeah. Okay. Okay. What about in network versus out of network? Do you have any thoughts on that when it comes to hiring an associate? I see sometimes people are like, I want to hire an associate and I'm out of network, but they're going to be in network, or there's all these different convoluted ways of thinking. I know you're out of network, but what are your thoughts on that?
I think that you have to really, when I hear that people are generally, when I hear that people have some people in network and some people out of network, it's generally because they don't have a clear vision of what they're trying to create. I think that everyone should either be in network or everyone should be out of network. I think having confusion in the practice, it just creates so many layers. So take an example where you come in and you need a crown and we tell you that it's $1,500 and you say, well, that's too expensive. I don't think I can do it. And then the treatment coordinator says, well, but you could see Dr. Farrell. And with Dr. Farrell, it's $1,200.
Sheesh, that's crazy.
And they're like,
I never even thought about
really?
that.
Really? Why is that? And it's like, well, because he's in network, but Dr. Hamlin's out of network. So I can only imagine as a consumer.
Oh yeah, no, I think so. A doctor would think the one that's out of network is a better dentist, right? But in my head as a patient, I'm thinking, no, the one in network is a better dentist.
Potentially. Or it could be the opposite. It's like, well, it's less expensive because the dentist isn't as good. And so are they going to, you see where it just creates a lot of confusion. Your team has to have conversations that are really weird. Your AR reports are really difficult to keep track of because you've got to know, oh no, this person.
So you need to pick a road.
Yeah. I just think you have to. And if your goal, usually the reason people do something like that is because they either believe that being in network is going to actually drive patients to these people, to these new doctors.
So they don't have to learn how to market.
And that's not how it works. Like that's not how being a network works. Or the doctor that is out of network is trying to limit the amount of dentistry that they're doing, but they could do that.
Yeah, you can do that artificially. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So it's one of those things in dentistry that like normal business people would look at us and be like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
But we have normalized it.
Yeah. And so if you were an associate and someone offered you a job and the doctor's like, I'm out of network, but you need to be in network, you would just be like, no, it's okay. I'll find something else.
No, not necessarily. I think if I was in a position where you were joining my practice or Dr. Valo's practice or Dr. Myrick's practice, like I really wouldn't care what I was. You know what I mean? Like there would be
so if you had
much
the opportunity. Yeah.
Yeah. If there was so many patients coming through the door that I'd be like, yeah, let's do that. I just want to be busy and productive. That's all I want. And knowing that well is never going to dry up is all I would care about. But I get where some people get, they feel a level of prestige of, well, I'm out of network. And it's like, well, that's just a philosophy. There's nothing like, I'm no better of a dentist than Colin is a dentist. Like, you know what I mean? Like we're both great dentists. We just chose two different paths.
Yeah. Yeah. So would you, so from an associate standpoint, would you be looking, you wouldn't even care if it was in network or out of network. You're just looking for which one has the most opportunity.
That's the only way I would look for a job is what place is going to give me because the only way that you make money as an associate is by producing dentistry. Like there's no way to go get the endorsement deal as an associate.
Yeah.
The endorsement deal works as if you're the owner of a practice, right? Because it's like, oh no, well we can make money here, or we can do this, that. But as an associate, the only way you make money is if you produce dentistry. So the name of the game is how much dentistry can I do at the highest dollar value that I can do it, right? And so you do have to know, like, am I gonna do a bunch of dentistry, a bunch of crowns for $50? Like that's not the job to take. You know what I mean? But if you're talking about the difference of doing, 10 crowns a month at $1,200 or 30 crowns a month at $1,000, like I would do the 30 crowns at 1,000 all day long.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then if you were a office that was in network and you're the owner doctor, well, how would you position that to associates as a net positive?
Well, just generally, I mean, this is well known, but just generally in network offices have a stigma that they're busier than out of network offices. So if I was recruiting, I would totally lean on historical averages of, well, no, like you don't want to go to Dr. Hamlin's office because it's going to be way slower than over here. And I'm like, no, you don't know. Like we figured out a better way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So if you're in, so basically you just had to look at yourself and then contrast it against the rest of the market and create the opportunity. And then last question, and this wasn't in our notes, but I'm just genuinely curious. Do you sit down with the doctors and say, okay, here's our percentages. Yeah, their percentage over there are higher or low or whatever. But look, here's the opportunities and forecast what their pay is going to look like based on the opportunities that they have.
Most definitely. And like, I think part of being a good leader is just being a good visionary and a good vision caster. And I think that's a responsibility. And that's why you have practices that it just seems like every provider that walks through their door is amazing. It's because they're just a better leader. You know what I mean? And I think that's how you recruit. That's why Alabama and Nick Saban got every great recruit, was because Nick Saban knew how to paint.
He went out and sold the dream. He said, this is how this is going to impact you and your family and your generations to come.
That's right. If you want to go to the NFL, this is the school to go to.
Yeah.
And if you want to go to the promised land, this is the office to come to.
Yeah.
And you got to believe that.
Yeah. So building that first. I love that. Well, thanks so much for this, Dr. Blake. This is a great show. And any last thoughts before we part ways?
No, I would just say, I think all of this stuff is, as an owner, you need to set a philosophy and believe in it. and build around that philosophy. And I think as an associate, you get the flexibility of deciding how you want to approach that. There's offices like myself who are out of network and might pay one way or another. And there's in-network offices, and there's big offices and small offices. And the great thing as an associate is that you get the freedom to choose what your future looks like. And from the owner perspective, so do you. And I think that's the beautiful thing about dentistry is it works for everybody.
Great stuff. Thanks so much, Dr. Blake. You have a good one.
Absolutely. You too.